Welcome back to the Just Fantasy Baseball podcast. My name is Rami Lavi. That is Vince Damato. Happy 4th of July, everyone. Happy holidays. I'm wearing the USA, so that's literally why I'm wearing it. So happy 4th of July to everyone. Hope everyone's enjoying and listening to our show as they're barbecuing or away on vacation, whatever you're doing. What big plans do you have, Vince?
None. It's awesome. No, my family's in town, so we're, hanging out and just seeing some other friends and other family and nothing crazy.
Is your family not from Chicago?
They are. They've moved. I have a huge family, but yeah, my
Got it.
parents have moved, and so kind of a little bit of a get together for everyone.
I'm curious, when you say huge family, how many siblings, aunts, uncles? What's a huge family?
So dad has 9 siblings.
Whoa,
Mom has
okay.
4.
So your dad's one of 10?
Yes.
Okay, and then you?
No, one of 9. I think I said
Okay,
that wrong.
so he has
9
8
in the
siblings.
family. Yes, 8 siblings, 3 siblings. So yeah, and then just me and my sister. So big extended family. That's all.
The reason I ask, my dad's one of 2, but my mom's one of 6, and I'm one of 7.
Wow. I
So,
didn't know you had that
yeah,
many siblings.
I'm the second of 7, so I have an older brother, and he has 2 kids, so I have, I have 2 sister-in-laws, the nieces, so, a big family, yeah,
And so what's
exactly.
the Lavi plan for 4th of July?
So it's actually funny. So my parents are coming up from Maryland. They're going to be in New Jersey, at my mother's sister, and then they're going to be spending the day with my grandmother, my father's mother, who lives on the Upper East Side of Manhattan. And then I'll be working the whole time. So my older brother is coming to my cousin, who actually lives around the corner from me, but we just got disinvited from that. So I think we're just going to end up spending the weekend with my parents. So I'm working today and tomorrow, and then Saturday, Sunday, I'll be with my parents.
I do have golf planned. That's one thing.
Oh,
Gotta
please,
get some
yeah.
golf in. Yep. Mhm.
Obviously. Maybe I'll catch some fireworks, I don't know, at some point. But we do have some baseball news because, of course, we talked about Isaiah Kiner-Falefa, and immediately he got injured. Like, didn't wait a second and then got hurt. So IKF, that's the number one headline. I don't know if you have anything to add on that, but I mean, to me, he's just an immediate drop. Like everything that we said about him, you're not holding a bench spot or an IL spot for Isaiah Kiner-Falefa. It's just unfortunate, and maybe when he's back, if he comes back, you have to see how he does. But right now, it's unfortunate because he had the opportunity and he was making the most of it. And now, who knows if he gets that opportunity back?
Well, I really appreciate you skipping the injury that is tormenting
It's
me.
coming. It's coming. It's
No.
coming.
Okay.
We'll
It's
get
not
there.
coming. No, we're good.
No, okay. So the
Show's
Brewers
over. Thank you.
traded for Aaron Savali.
Yes.
He has about a 5 ERA. So to me, this is a case where I think, you know, going to a different place maybe changes something for him and maybe he can get it together. So maybe if you're hoping, I know he had a good year last year, I think, and he started the year strong this year. So maybe if you're hoping he can get on track, maybe this does get him on track. The other thing is, though, I saw the guy going back is like a high A ball guy, and I bet he'll be an all-star within 2 years. He's a middle infielder going back the other way. They'll sign him to a huge contract, and then he'll molest minors. But no, just kidding. That was a bad joke, but it was kind of funny. One more thing before we get to you're laughing. I don't know.
It was out of nowhere. I wasn't expecting that one, but go ahead.
Yeah, but he will be great at baseball. One more thing before Aaron Judge was named the player of the month. So I just want to read off these stats. 25 games in June. He batted .409, had a .514 on base, an .867 slugging, 11 home runs, 25 runs, 37 RBIs, 16 walks. I don't know why they're not walking him more. And then tonight they pitched to him with runners on the corners in a 1-run game, and he grounded into double play with 1 out. And I was like, oh, come on, Aaron Judge sucks. Down 1, and the Yankees lost. The Yankees they've not won a series since, remember, I was off. I was visiting family in Detroit, June 9th through June 12th when they were playing against Kansas City. That feels like years ago, that series. That's the last time the Yankees won a series. They've lost 6 consecutive series now. But the biggest news for the sake of our podcast, Royce Lewis back on the IL with a right adductor strain. The floor is yours, Vince.
Not really much to say. Was it abductor? I thought it was
I'm
groin.
reading off of
Yeah,
John
no, no,
Boy.
you're right. You're right. I think the initial thing was either way. It just what else can you say? I don't know. It's just it sucks. It sucks for baseball. And honestly, I feel for him, like what a roller coaster of a last 4 years he's had. And you just, we hate to see it. We really do. This is one of the biggest injury disappointments that I can think of. You always hear like, oh, whose career would have been great without injuries? Like you hear that question all the time. Royce Lewis is one of the first people. It's Derrick Rose and Royce Lewis are the first two people that pop into my head.
They're not the
Um,
first. I mean, Rose, yes. Royce Lewis is not the first person.
I
Something
think it's just
severely
because
wrong
it's
with you.
fresh. Call me crazy, but he was one of the best players over that little stretch that he had, and I
He's
don't
a
think it was
what
a
if
fluke.
career.
So
He's not a, it's a different kind of what if. It's we never knew what he could have been. Whereas Derrick Rose, we know he would have been great. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah,
You
that's
see the
fair. We
nuance
didn't
there?
see, yeah, we didn't
Yeah.
see a full season of him or anything like that. Versus we saw Derrick Rose, the youngest MVP ever.
There are so many gadgets in this studio that I want to touch right now. And I'm used to being in here, but I'll give you a Dave Winfield All-Star card.
Oh, thank
No,
you.
but there's so much stuff in here. There's a model of uh that is the Polo Grounds that I'm looking at right now. Anyway,
That's cool.
so if you see my eyes darting, it's because I'm just looking around at everything. When I'm doing the show generally in here, somehow I miss a lot of these things, but there's a lot of cool things in here. Anyway, I will say this. We do have to get into other things because there's who's hot, who's not. There's buy low, sell high, all that stuff that we talk about generally. So let's start with who's hot and who's not. There are three guys that are hot and one guy who is not. So I'll start with Brandon Nimmo. Brandon Nimmo is as hot as anyone in baseball, and I'll give you the numbers right now. Over the last, forget about the last week, let's go last 2 weeks. 457 on base, 4 home runs, 12 RBIs, 13 runs scored, and a stolen base. Brandon Nimmo has been consistently solid for the Mets all year. Now he's at the point where, I mean, he's right in the middle of everything that's happening, and he's in one of the best lineups in baseball with Lindor batting in front of him, and obviously with Martinez and Alvarez batting behind him. I mean, there's not a better spot to be in a lineup in baseball right now than sandwiched between all those guys who are playing well. So for me, Brandon Nimmo is a must roster, must start. He's picked up again. Now everyone's onto him, but he's still, there's still like 10% of leagues out there that maybe he's not rostered, but he's a must play every single day. In fact, he's been one of the he's the number 23 ranked fantasy baseball player this year. Brandon Nimmo is, I mean, his season numbers, here they are. 370 on base. He's got 13 home runs, 52 RBIs, 54 runs scored, 6 stolen bases. I mean, this is one of the best players in the league right now.
And I think the big part of it, because you look and you say, oh, 248 average, how is this guy so good? It's that last part that you mentioned, 54 runs and 52 RBIs. He's on pace for a 100 season,
He's having
25 home runs.
he's having the year that Alec Boehm had last year. This is why I said he's lefty Alec Boehm right now. The
Yeah.
average is a little lower than Boehm. I think Boehm was at like 290 last year, but he makes up for it by having an on base percentage of 370.
Mhm.
So a 370 on base, and especially if you're on base league, which a lot of leagues are, or an OPS league, not a ton of power. Like I said, like 13 home runs, it's nice. It's not a ton. It's
Yeah.
decent. It's better than Alec Boehm, but he's gonna have 100 RBIs and 100 runs scored. They're halfway through their season. He's going to do 100 and 100. And you think about it, he's only really come on the last couple of months. He'll probably exceed those numbers if the Mets offense keeps it up.
Yeah. And that's an if, right? I mean, a lot of question marks, but either way, Nimmo's playing
I
very,
don't
very well.
I don't know if there's as many question marks as people think, but because Alvarez has hit his whole career. JD Martinez is the most professional hitter, and Lindor, since moving him back into leadoff, has been awesome. So, like,
Yeah.
as long as those three guys are hitting, I think Nimmo's in the perfect spot.
Yeah. You're absolutely right.
All right, who do you got?
I'm all over these young prospect guys who just came up. I've been talking all about Langford, but this time I'm going to switch it up and talk about Jackson Churio.
Mm,
He has been absolutely hot over the last month. Uh, not as loud as Langford, I think maybe because he doesn't have the first cycle in Sunday Night Baseball history. But over the last 24 days or 28 days, excuse me, he's hitting 338 with a 385 on base, 521 slug, just 3 home runs, which is fine, nothing crazy. And then you look at a season line of 248 with 9 home runs and 9 steals. You're like, okay, that's fine. But he's really been heating up. You know, again, we have to remember that he's a 20-year-old. Just absolutely, you know, I look at the last 7 days alone, he's hitting 429 in the last 7 days with 2 home runs. Jackson Chourio has absolutely been phenomenal lately. And it's kind of a good thing. It makes me feel confident with Chourio and Langford. Baseball, the future of baseball is in good hands with them. I almost thought about throwing him, and I will mention it too. I almost thought about throwing Chourio in as a sell high because I think too the perceived value, he came in as such a highly touted prospect. He's finally figured it out, and I absolutely do think he has. But we also have to remember it's a long season, right? And we see this all the time. Young guys, they have flashes, and is he going to still be doing this in August and September? We don't know. But you maybe could sell high in a redraft. Certainly not a dynasty. But one thing I want to mention, Garrett Mitchell's back now. Could that cut into some playing time if he starts slowing down at the plate? You know, you still got a lot of mouths to feed. Jake Bowers, Rhys Hoskins, Blake Perkins. Like, there's tons of guys on that team still. I would caution to sell high, but if you have a good deal for him, I wouldn't hesitate. So, but either way, Jackson Chourio is scorching hot and should be in pretty much every lineup in fantasy right now.
You mentioned young guys who are hot. Brenton Doyle, how about that? I mean, his numbers over the last week: 346, 4 home runs, 8 RBIs, 2 stolen bases, 5. I think that's 5 runs scored. He's been, last 7 days, one of the hottest hitters, and it's always, when they play in Colorado, you always have a little bit more wiggle room there, where you're like, I'll roster this guy, I'll pick him up, I'll plug him in my lineup, and at least for this homestand. And there's a good chance he'll hit. And then if, they go on the road and he struggles, all right, I'll cut him, but, or I'll bench him. But at least while they're home, that these guys are going to hit, and he's been hitting. He's hot, has, 10 home runs all year, and 4 of them have come in the last week.
10 home runs, 20 steals. I love when I look at a guy's stat page and I see multi-hit game after multi-hit game. It just tells me that they're seeing the ball well. Brenton Doyle, good call out. He's a top 100 player right now. Probably not valued as such. So I think that's a great call.
And I'll give you an honorable. I'll give you an honorable mention because he's, this is my last one, but I think we talked about him struggling earlier in the year, but Jose Altuve in the last 2 weeks, 423, 2 homers, 3 stolen bases, 9 RBIs, 9 runs scored. Again, the season as a whole may be a little bit disappointing by Altuve standards, although he does have 13 home runs, 13 stolen bases, so that's decent. But the last couple of weeks he's really been coming on, and that team as a whole, we know that the Astros are as hot as any team in baseball. I'd be trying to roster everyone because I think they're going to make a push in the second half of the season. I think they're really going to go for it. And would you be shocked if we saw the Astros in the American League Championship Series again? I wouldn't.
No, nobody would. And we talked about it too. We knew that they were going to come on.
They'll turn it on at some point.
Seattle. Yep.
All right. Who's not?
I was looking at, I thought I remember Yordan Alvarez being hurt, but maybe he was okay. Anyways, who's not? This one does hurt me a little bit because I was all over this guy earlier, and he was hot earlier in the year. He has since cooled off very, very much, and that is Maikel Garcia, third baseman for the Kansas City Royals. He's still leading off, which is good, I guess, but over the last month, he's hitting 133 with no home runs, and that's a big killer. His slugging is 184 over that last month. It's been a pretty big killer for him. He's not seeing the ball as well as he was. You look at his May numbers. He was hitting in May. He hit 305 with 1 home run and then 4 home runs throughout April and March. So he really started off hot and has just, since June hit, he's just kind of fallen off a cliff. This is a kind of guy, when you think about what to do with him, I'm probably not dropping him just yet. I still think he should be on your bench in pretty much every format because a lot of his underlying numbers still look good. He, doesn't chase, he doesn't whiff, he doesn't strike out. He's still hitting the ball over 90 miles an hour, almost 91 miles an hour. So there's still a lot of good in the profile. It's close. If you wanted to cut Michael Garcia for someone else, I wouldn't blame you. I'm holding for right now, but he's been ice cold, and I can't really ride this streak out much longer. So he is definitely on my who's not list.
My who's not list is one that hurts me as well, and it's Luis Gil for the Yankees. His last 5 starts, I just pulled this up. His last 5 games, the team's record is 2-3. He's 1-3. In 20 and a third innings, he's allowed 20 runs, has only 17 strikeouts and 14 walks, plus 23 hits. So that is, if for those keeping score at home, his ERA is 8.85. He's also hit 5 batters in his last 5 starts. Just all the numbers look awful. Opponents are hitting over or are on base over 400 against him in his last 5 starts. And the last start was really interesting because it was a tale of almost 2 starts depending on the inning. There were innings that he was coming out and he's pumping gas and guys are swinging and missing, flailing at the changeup, can't catch up to the fastball. And then he just, the second things start to go wrong, he can't seem to right the ship. And so, he starts the game with a 4-pitch walk and then he strikes out the next 3 batters. You know what I mean? So it was all over the place. And the problem is I don't think the Yankees are letting him work through things right now. And so, maybe this is, I don't know what I would reveal about different guys if I watch them every day the way I watch my team every day, right? But,
Right.
in watching the Yankees and the Mets every day, I see that this is a guy who, when it's not going well for him, the Yankees are like not letting him work through it. And I think he's lost his confidence because of that. I think because he's not being allowed to work through it, he's lost his confidence. So what I mean by that is now anytime he gives up a walk, he's looking over his shoulder, looking at the dugout, like, whoa, what's gonna happen? And then he tries to be too perfect and it's putting more pressure on him because the velocity's there, the movement on the changeup is there. Everything, the stuff looks good. So, the only thing that he's struggling with is confidence and location. And those things I think are connected. And I think when the confidence goes, the mechanics start to go because you're starting to worry about other things. And he's starting to just miss location. And then, he tries to be too perfect. And now he's in a 3-ball count with runners on base and he's grooving a fastball down the middle. So Luis Gil, not a great situation. I wouldn't panic because he doesn't look fatigued. People are like, oh, he's fatigued. He's not fatigued. He's not. The fastball's still hitting 98. He still looks energized. He's still got life out there. So it's not a fatigue thing. It's not, a stuff thing. So he's not hurt. You know what I mean? I think it's literally just like a confidence thing more than anything else. So, hopefully they figure that out.
I like that you mentioned letting him work through things because I was actually just having this conversation with my mom because she was asking about Pete Crow Armstrong. And I said,
Your
the
mom a
Cubs.
big fantasy baseball or a big baseball
No,
fan?
just she watches the Cubs with my
Got it.
dad
All
and
right.
stuff.
Love
But
that.
she was asking about him, and I'm like, well, the Cubs are struggling, so it's not like he's a hole in that team. Everyone's a hole in that team. But you look at guys like Churio and Langford, their teams let them work through their problems, right? They both struggled. There was a point where they were both down in mid-month of May or something, or around May, where it looked like, oh, maybe they're going to get sent back down. No, they let the guys work through their problems. And I almost think I was thinking about Jackson Holiday too. Maybe that's something that the Orioles have to let him stay up for a
And it's
little bit or
almost
something.
easier when you're a bad team to, you know what I mean? Like we talk about the Cubs so many times, not being such
Mhm.
a good team to
Yeah,
let guys, hey, just work through it, figure it out. Whereas with the Mets or with the Yankees rather, and the Orioles, it's like, hey, they're in the
right.
tight division race. It's like, hey, we don't have time to let you try and work this out. Like we gotta win games.
Yeah,
But the
that's
problem
fair.
is the Yankees, they're gonna rely on if they're gonna be successful, which they haven't been, like we just said for the last month. If they're gonna be successful, they're gonna need to rely um on Luis Gil. And also in addition to that, if they're going to be like successful, they can't have their bullpen pitching the way they're pitching because their bullpen hasn't been good. So, it kind of doesn't make sense to not rely on him, but it is what it is. And like I said, I do think he'll be able to get back because none of the stuff like that I look at just watching him tells me that he's going to be bad. Uh, but maybe he's a buy low candidate, which
I
gets
was
us
just
to
gonna
that
ask, is he a buy low
segment.
for you? Yeah.
Uh, I think right now there's too many factors in play
Okay.
because there's also what if he does start to figure it out again and then the fatigue hits and then Clark Schmidt's back and now he's back in the bullpen. Like That is my worry with him. So I wouldn't use him as a buy low candidate, but I do have someone else in mind who,
Sure.
and I have a reason for it. And he could have been one of our colds, but I'll let you go first, and then we'll get to mine.
My buy low is a guy who hasn't been terrible, but again, I just think there's another level for him, and I think the perceived value is such that you can buy him and get a good ROI for, and that is Ha-Seong Kim for the San Diego Padres. Another utility guy. We love those. We talk about him all the time. And the thing that I love about Kim is he's one of the best just pure hitters in all of the game, and he's certainly not seen as such. He's chasing at only 17%. He does not whiff. He does not strike out. He walks at almost a 14% rate. He's just very comfortable as a hitter. And the one thing that I think held him back last year, like a few things, was just how hard he was hitting the ball and how much he was making hard contact. And you look at the 2024 numbers versus 2023, he's brought his average exit velocity up over a mile, almost a mile and a half, or over a mile and a half, I should say. And he's also getting to more barrels. He's getting more hard contact. He's already got 10 home runs and 15 stolen bases this season. I think he had another two tonight. This is an easy 20, 25, 30 season that we're going to see out of Ha-Seong Kim. And again, I think there's just more in the tank. So if somebody's going to cash out or say, oh, he's going to be 20, 30, I think there's potential for more. I think there's potential for 25 home runs. And again, just better counting stats. If someone looks at his average, because you look at it and it's 226 right now. I think that's only going to go up. And we
So why
love
would
this
someone want to trade
333.
him?
Well, because again, I mean, you look at the average, 226 average, maybe you can sell on someone, hey, he's just an okay guy. I just think that's going to go up. And you look at his last week or so, the last couple weeks, last 7 days, 278 batting average. I think that's going to come up. And I think, as his numbers come back towards the mean, you're just going to get a good return on your investment if he's a guy that you can invest in. And again, it's not like I'm trying to overpay for Ha-Seong Kim, but I think he's a good buy low because I think he's going up from here.
Got it. I'll give you mine. It's
Sure.
Julio Rodriguez. And I had the idea, obviously, because he was put on the block in our league. And I would 1000% trade for him. Here's the thing. His last week, he's 2 for his last 21, 5 for his last 44, no home runs, no RBIs in his last 2 weeks. I mean, it is atrocious. It's as bad as it gets. The guy has gone from having a down season from bad to worse. His last month, he has a 243 on base. Like, this guy has been dreadful. Here's the thing, this team's really good. They're going to make, adjustments to improve their offense. Their offense stinks right now. Their pitching is too good to let this offense let them down. They have 3 young starters who are controllable for the next 3 years, who are really, really good. They're going to trade for offense, and when they do, why would Julio Rodriguez see a pitch to hit right now? If you're facing the Mariners, why would you pitch to Julio Rodriguez?
Because he's been horrible. Why wouldn't you
Yeah,
pitch to him?
because there's no one else who could beat you. He's the only one who can beat you in that lineup. So let someone else meaning I wouldn't put him on base. I would he's not gonna see anything, and I think maybe he's pressing with how bad this offense has been. I think this offense, if they trade for a first baseman and another bat, if they get 2 more bats in this lineup, 2 more decent bats, who's on the block, if it's Ryan McMahon, if it's Pete Alonso, if this offense can improve a little bit, I think that'll go a long way for helping Rodriguez. His value is not gonna get any lower than it is right now. So now's the time. If somebody's trying, like in our league,
Hmm.
to pawn him off at a cheaper value, now's the time to go get Julio Rodriguez.
Yeah, I went and offered Cedane Rafaela for him, and I think that's a good
It's the
deal
same thing.
because yeah,
Another guy who's struggling. I mean, if you look at Corbin Carroll, Cedane Rafaela, and Julio Rodriguez, it's these young studs who are supposed to be great, and they've been awful this year.
yeah, I think that's fair.
All right, my sell high. We talk so much about the catcher position. Is a guy who's been really scorching hot the last 2 weeks. 344 on base, 4 months, 15 RBI, 7 runs scored. And people are desperate for catchers right now. So you may think this is a buy low. No, I think this is sell high. Take this opportunity, try and add him. He's not rostered in a lot of leagues. Pick him up, pawn him off. And that's Kyle Higashioka for the San Diego Padres.
I thought about picking him up, but
Yeah, he's a
it's
good
hard.
pickup,
It's hard. What are you
but
gonna? It's hard. I almost think too. What are you gonna get for him?
there's enough people who are desperate for catcher, I
Sure.
think,
Yeah.
that I wouldn't be shocked if someone overpaid a little bit for him.
Sure. That's fair.
Give you a solid
I agree.
outfielder. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. Because again, will he stay hot? I don't know if I believe that. So yeah,
Probably
that's
not.
fair. Yeah.
Yeah, now's the time.
Sure. Mine is a guy that I just had as my MVP. Was it last week or the week before? And I really do think he's typically underrated in the fantasy community. But I think now might be a time to cash out on Anthony Santander. Um,
Mhm.
and again, I absolutely love him. I still think just in general, he's typically underrated. This guy is almost a lock for 25, 30 home runs at least. And he's already got 22 this year. Um, and I will preface by saying if you need home runs, you need RBIs, maybe don't think about selling Anthony Santander. But if you can or if you can take a little bit of hit in those categories and still be okay and attack something else that you need, like average or like on base, things that he kind of brings you down in, um, I absolutely would be selling Anthony Santander. He's currently a top 80 player, and I just don't think he's going to surpass that, at least not with some of the underlying metrics that he has. And he's hitting 235. I think that feels like a top of the chain, if you will. Maybe he gets to 240, but I see all the guys that are kind of breathing down his neck, and it's like, okay, Baltimore stuck with him. Are they going to continue to stick with him down the stretch if he starts to get cold? Um,
Could
yeah,
he be moved, right? Could they trade him for relief pitching and bring up a couple of
yeah,
the other young guys? I don't know, right? So
yeah. I would be looking to sell him. I'm trying to sell him in a dynasty league right now, because again, I don't need the power, and yeah, I think he's a good candidate for that.
and he's not the outfielder of the future for them. We know that already.
No,
You know what I
yep,
mean?
yep,
So if you're in a
absolutely right.
dynasty league, definitely be looking to sell him. Do you have a prospect report for us?
I do. Just a couple real quick things. You mentioned the Aaron Savali trade. I
Mhm.
don't know if you mentioned who's going to replace him. One of my favorite young pitchers that we're going to see, Shane Baz, is hopefully going to get the start for.
And if there's a young pitcher coming up, and I know Shane Baz has been up in the past, but if there's a young pitcher coming up for Tampa, he's gonna be good. I mean,
Yeah,
do we need any, David Price, Matt Garza, going back to all those guys, right? There's one I'm forgetting, Scott Kazmir, obviously, so all those guys, all the way up to, whether it was Blake Snell or whoever it was, we know that the young pitching prospects for Tampa they kill it.
yeah, they're one of the best pitching orgs in all of baseball, if not the
Mhm.
best. Shane Baz should be rostered everywhere. I don't care about your league size, 10 teams, 12 teams. He should be rostered. Um, he's only got 40 innings pitched in his major league career,
I didn't
and
realize it was that few.
yeah, and that's why he's in my prospect report, is because he's still technically a prospect. And you look at his rehab starts that he's been making. He struggled a little bit in May, but in June he really found his stride in 23 innings, 1.57 ERA, and 35 strikeouts. He's a potential ace for Tampa Bay and for your fantasy team. I don't think he'll be throwing a ton of innings, but at the same time, they will be quality innings. I mean, he feels like if there is such a thing as a can't miss guy, Shane Baz is as close as they get to a can't miss guy if he stays healthy. So again, that's a big caveat for a lot of guys, but Shane Baz should absolutely be rostered. And then my other guy is the other replacement for Royce Lewis. And that's Brooks Lee, shortstop slash third base, I guess, for the Minnesota Twins. He was drafted in 2022, and he was always applauded for his good hit tool. He was always seen as like a high floor, low ceiling kind of player. I always kind of get a Kyle Manzardo type vibe, good hit tool, potential for some pop. Um, I could even see him being a sell high, because if somebody looks at his AAA numbers, he was hitting 329 in the minors this year with 7 home runs in 20 games. That sounds amazing. And you look at, the surface numbers this year, and it's like, oh my God, he's got power. He hits the ball for average. He's got everything. But then you look at the previous 2 years, 2023 and 2022, out of about 200 games or in 200 games, he had 20 home runs over those 2 seasons. I don't think that 7 home runs in 20 games that he's got this year, I don't think that's legit. I think he is, maybe a 10 to 15 home run bat. Maybe you get 20 at a peak season or something like that. But for now, I think he's a good guy to grab on waivers if you need a shortstop to plug in a hole. He's going to get hopefully hit for a good average, get some counting stats and a good Minnesota offense. So Brooksley's a guy to absolutely keep your eye on for the foreseeable future.
All right, and I have a question for you. This is an 18 league, so it is a
You said
mailbag mock
8?
trade 8. So
Okay.
these teams are stacked. So I can't
Yeah,
even
right.
like when I looked at this, I'm like, I don't know, your team looks incredible. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But someone sent it to me, so I figured we'll bring it up. He's trying to trade uh Dylan Cease for Max Scherzer and Ronaldo Lopez.
Um, I think if you can get Scherzer and Lopez, I probably would. It's hard. I mean, Lopez is going to give you probably the best innings out of all 3 of those pitchers. So that's, if
Yeah.
you need, but if you need strikeouts really badly, Cease is your guy. I mean, 130 so far in 102 innings. I'm also questioning, and I'm thinking about selling Ronaldo Lopez in a dynasty league because
Hmm.
he's never thrown this many, or at least not for a long time. He hasn't thrown this many innings. And so I'm wondering,
It's
I know
definitely
you
high
said,
risk because
Mhm.
Scherzer's also coming off the injury and all that, but
Sure.
I
Yeah,
would do it as well. I
I
think you're
would pull
getting
the
2
trigger.
guys. Obviously, Cease's last start wasn't good, but he's good in general, you know?
Yeah.
Um,
It's hard too
so
because those 8 teams leagues, like replacement level value is so high on waivers. Like you're probably able to stream so many pitchers every week if you're, on top of it. Um, but yeah, if you can trade Cease for Lopez and Scherzer, yeah, I absolutely would.
I'm just seeing this on TV now. Kodai Senga, 2 and 2/3 innings tonight in I don't know, in a rehab start in the minors. 6 strikeouts in 2 and 2/3 innings, no hits, no runs, no walks. So how about that?
We like to see that.
Also, the other thing that I'm seeing on as again, sorry, the TV's on in the studio, but does everyone wear that face guard? Every batter in baseball now? I feel like every one of them, right? Do we see anyone who doesn't have the face guard on the helmet?
Yeah, I mean, I was just thinking Pete Crow Armstrong because I don't think he had one
He
when he
doesn't.
tried to
I'm trying to think maybe
use his
once. So
helmet to
right.
tag the
No, I think he did because he was holding on to the edge of it. No, or was he holding on to the
I think it was the top of the
bill?
I don't know. That's a good question. I haven't been paying
Ah,
attention too much to it, but I
I
always
think
thought
Juan Soto maybe doesn't have one.
if I got hit in
I
the
think Juan
face with
Soto
a
doesn't.
90-mile-an-hour baseball, I would have one on. You
I
wouldn't?
know. Yeah, I mean, I would also want to have one on, but yeah, again, I agree with you.
I don't know if you
Um,
saw I did want to
no, go
mention
ahead.
too because I thought about it. Jose Soriano had a start the other day, and
Oh, follow up.
his follow up because I talk about this guy a lot, and I think he's still got a very high ceiling. You look at his surface line, 4 innings and 4 earned runs, and you're like, that's not too good. But he absolutely cruised through the
Can
first
we talk
time through
about
the
how
order.
that guy that I talked about on the Blue Jays? We didn't even talk about this.
Oh yeah, Julio Rodriguez. Yeah,
Oh
yeah,
my
yeah.
god, dude, what did he do? He was like 6 and 2/3 innings and like I sent it to you. I'll find it.
But yeah, Jose
He
Soriano
went
lit it
6
up.
innings, 6 strikeouts, 2 hits, 1 run. It was just a solo homer that he gave up. Yet he ended up being a tough luck loser because Toronto lost 1-0, I think, to the Astros. But man,
Yeah, hopefully you're not in a wins league.
yeah, but still, I was right on it with that guy. Man, I was like, you're like, yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't start him. I wouldn't rely on him. Like, no,
Yeah,
no, no.
especially
Stream
against
this guy.
Houston. I mean, wasn't
I was freaking right.
good for you, Rami. I'm happy for you.
Yep. All right. Anyway, okay. Um, I'm just looking now. Anthony Volpe's not wearing it. I don't know. I guess a bunch of guys don't. All right. Everyone have a great 4th of July. We'll talk to you guys on Sunday. Until next time. See ya.